What's maybe advice for somebody who likes aviation, they don't know where to start?
Reach out to people, reach out to people that you see creating content. I mean, like yourself, Lindsay, like myself, like we're putting ourselves out there for a reason. And it's really, we would love to be contacted to help you in your journeys.
Hello and welcome to the Business Aviation Collective podcast, sponsored by LD Aviation. I'm Lindsay Dyer, and today we get a chance to talk to Tom Lelyo. Tom is the president of Jet Life Aero, and you can find him online at the Ultimate Jet Guide. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Lindsay, how's it going?
Very good. Thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us today.
My pleasure.
I appreciate you coming because you have definitely a different aspect of aviation than we have had on this show before. And you are at a brokerage. You own a brokerage, which is a buying and selling of aircraft. Most of the people that we have had on the podcast so far have been in flight departments that are already established. So we might do some buying and selling, but I bet you work with a lot of actual brand new owners.
Yeah, one of my favorite people to work with are brand new first time jet buyers. So it's always interesting to kind of explain to them the different aspects of aviation, the different things that they're going to need, from insurance to hangars to pilots. And to your point, as we were talking about earlier before we hit record, is the flight departments. I mean, who's going to handle the details when you need to go somewhere? And so for a lot of guys, it might be used to either them being the owner operator, so that they would handle that kind of stuff. But we have to step up into a jet, and especially if you need two pilots, I mean, now all of a sudden, there's a lot of little details. And I'm not a very detail-oriented kind of person, I'm not going to lie. So the fact that we have someone, an owner can have someone on the team like yourself to handle those little details, from the weights to the capacity to, whatever, just the timing, where you're going. I think that's a great value add for a lot of owners.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's definitely the traits of most schedulers, dispatchers, and that is that they're detail oriented.
Mm-hmm.
So Tom, I'm going to back up a little bit. And you didn't start out in aviation, did you? This is kind of a newer endeavor for you. Where did you start out?
So I actually went to college for ministry. I graduated with a degree in theology. I wanted to be a youth pastor. I got a master's degree in theology as well. And right out of college, I started serving as a youth pastor at my local church. And that's pretty much where I worked for about 10 years, different churches in the area. And that's what actually brought me from the Northeast in the tri-state area of Jersey, Pennsylvania, down to Florida, where my family and I live now.
Nice.
Moved down to Florida specifically for a job as a youth pastor. And so That's kind of where my roots were, and in many ways still are, as we still volunteer at our local church. But ministry has always been a part of my life.
Nice. That's awesome. And youth, that's such a noble cause too. I mean, the more really good role models that we have for our youth, the better. I have a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old. And I mean, really good role models in adults are really few and far between, and very needed. So thank you for that. Very cool. All right. So from the youth pastor, then where did you head to? What did you start?
Well, by the time we were kind of wrapping up that season in our life, my wife and I had 5 children. That's kind of where we're at right now. We do have 5 kids. And
cool.
And so we were looking for something different, a little bit of a change. And so I actually found myself going out doing some marketing, videography for local businesses. And one of the local businesses I tried to get their business was a local music school. Mm-hmm. And upon meeting with the owner, she shared her vision for the music school to inspire and educate and collaborate, with that next generation of musicians. This wasn't just go to a church with some little old lady at a piano and learn how to play. It took like a school of rock. I mean, they had a whole warehouse with a concert venue and everything. And so I fell in love with the mission and vision of that school, and signed up, to be a part of it. And so I worked there for a few years until about 2020. And then it just came time, to take the next step in my profession. And so I started looking for careers in sales. I had been involved in sales my entire life, from selling kids on coming to church with some stale pizza on a Friday night instead of going to the football game, with music, direct sales, network marketing with fruits and vegetables in a capsule, selling Cutco knives in college. So I'd always kind of not shied away from sales and realized the benefit of being in control of your income by being able to solve problems for people and provide solutions for people. So when I started looking at other opportunities, I just went to Indeed.com, saw an ad online for high net worth sales. Don't even think it even mentioned jets at all. But when the interview took me to the airport and I saw the name of the company that had jets in it, I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're selling airplanes in some way, shape, or form. So I was fortunate enough they took a chance on somebody with no aviation background. I put in my 2 weeks notice, March of 2020, and as many of you, maybe that date is kind of ringing bells in your mind. That's just when the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And so after putting my 2 weeks notice in, the agency that hired me called me up and said, I'm sorry, but we can't hire you right now.
Oh, no.
We are shut down and we don't know what this is going to do. So you're kind of on your own. So I spent on my own, honing my sales skills with the hope that they would call me back. And sure enough, in about 4 or 6 weeks, they did. And it all started for me that April.
That is so cool. Yeah, I think a lot of people had a lot of uncertainty going on right around March of 2020. Can I go back just really quick to one thing you had mentioned? You said you sold Cutco knives in college. So I read a really good book by Hal Elrod and The Miracle Morning. Have you ever read that?
No.
Wow. I love that book. And it's about how to structure your morning to basically be more productive, which I really like it. Anyway, it just struck me interesting because he based his entire career basically on selling the Cutco knives. And he started in college. So anyway, I just thought that was a neat parallel. So
yeah, no, I still have my knives.
Yeah, I hear they're awesome.
Yes.
Very cool. Okay, so March of 2020, or so now must be April or May of 2020, and now you went back to work for them.
Mm-hmm.
So how steep was that learning curve? I mean, if you came from basically zero aviation knowledge, I mean, selling is selling, but did you have to do a lot of studying to know what airplanes you were looking at?
Yeah, I mean, there was certainly a little bit of a learning curve. I enjoy learning. And so what I found, the biggest problem for me, though, was there wasn't a lot of resources out there to start studying makes and models. So we started with legacy, older citations. And if you Google that, you get basically a Wikipedia page and you get a bunch of, Reddit and back internet chats and forums going back and forth. I wasn't really organized, so you had to sift through a lot of it. So a lot of it was learning on the job, which is why, I kind of appreciate what you guys are doing for schedules and dispatchers, is putting all that information in a single spot where people understand and make sense of the job. Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine scheduling and dispatching is kind of similar to sales, where you just need to know enough. You need to know just enough more than the person that you're talking to on the phone to get started. And then you become, more proficient, more professional in it. So you have the basics of, tell me how many people, are coming, tell me how much luggage, and tell me where you're going. And, you can pretty much figure it out from there.
That's right. And I'm sure same as in sales, you're continuously learning. I mean, I learn stuff every day. I've been doing this for 25 years and I still learn something new every single day. Maybe a way to make it faster or easier, more streamlined. So cool.
Yeah.
All right. So you didn't see much online, but you had to learn all that anyway. You started with the older airplanes.
Yeah.
Okay. How long did it take you to sell your first jet or aircraft? Didn't have to.
Yeah. No. I mean, we stuck with jets, and they were. I mean, let's be clear. I mean, they were $500,000 or lower. I mean, they weren't brand new CJ4 Gen 2s or anything like that.
Well, it's still something that we probably don't buy every day. That's still a bit of money.
But, it's kind of like a house, so I kind of look at it like a realtor. It probably took 4 to 6 months for the first sale. But along those lines, we were calling through the markets on a regular basis. So we started to have a little bit of a pipeline. So by the time I, got my first listing, which is one of our milestones, was probably about 30 to 60 days. And then by 6 months, we had a sale. 4 to 6 months, we had a sale. And by then we probably had 6 to 8 listings to go along with it. So after that sale, it would be another 30 to 60 days for another sale. And they just kind of, snowball effect. But we did it pretty hard. I'm a big fan of Grant Cardone and his 10X ethos, if you will. And so, I invested a lot of time, energy, and money into learning my craft. And I think that's, really important for any field, especially if you're just starting out, even in scheduling and dispatching. Like, there's probably a certain level of skill. And then if you just apply, X amount of effort, you can really stand apart from the crowd, and so that's really important when it comes to just how you carry yourself and the kind of job you do, so that you can either be the best scheduled dispatcher you can, or if you have aspirations for something else, it's going to set you up for success. You can't just do, the minimum.
Yeah. Would you be able to just talk to us a little bit more about that 10X philosophy? And you said his name is Grant Cardone.
Yeah, Grant Cardone is he's a pretty popular influencer right now, and he's been around for decades. Originally starting out in automotive sales and creating like an online sales course before online sales courses were out there. Mostly for automotive type sales, but he's grown into a lot more now. He does a lot of real estate, a lot of philanthropy, and it's just basically the whole idea is whatever amount of effort you think it's going to take to do something, you need to 10X it. So if you think it's going to take you, 10 phone calls to get someone on the line, we'll plan on doing 100 phone calls.
Okay.
Basically, it's this idea of frequency before you get it to greatness.
Okay.
So if you have this mindset that, wow, I got to make 100 calls to make this work, well, on the way to 100 calls, you're going to hit that goal. So if your goal is, I want to make $1 million this year, your goal really should be, I want to make $10 million this year, and or towards making $10 million this year. And in so doing, come across the dollar or beyond, which is, what I've seen, just in my own personal life. The more intentional, massive action that I put into something, the results speak for themselves.
Nice. Yeah, like a BFG.
Exactly.
Very cool. Okay, great. I'll have to look him up. I have not listened to any of his stuff, but I get the 10X. I mean, I sometimes feel like in my business, I'm almost at a decade now. Next year will be 10 years. And yeah, I'm sure I thought it would take a lot less time to get this a lot bigger, to make it larger. And even now I think, oh, well, I should be able to just take 1 or 2 more clients, to make that extra whatever. It doesn't always work that way. So
yeah, for sure.
Good point. So you came in, you started selling aircraft. Sounds like you loved it. And then you recognized that there wasn't, I guess maybe I should ask you, where did you progress from there?
We started out, the goal was to just sell, 1 airplane. And then when I first joined, I'd asked the manager, what's the goal? Like, what's the income potential? What are we shooting for? Because you can't hit a target that you can't see. So he said, roughly in your first year, we expect you to make 6 figures, take home. And I was like, that's impossible. I was a youth minister for 10 years, and then I worked at a music school. Like, I would never even dream of that. And so I just worked my butt off to get to that first goal. And in that first calendar year, that's exactly what we kind of hit. And so we kind of just took that volume and then applied it to bigger models or more expensive models. I never sold anything more than about $3.5 million. So we didn't get into the 10s, 20s, and 50s. But, as things progressed, then the commissions got bigger and the income went up. And that's kind of where things just went from the beginning till just about when I was ready to leave. And it was a fantastic learning opportunity. It taught me a lot. And at the same time, it was just very exciting to be around the owners, the aviation community. I think you got to speak to this, in the schedule and dispatcher arena. It's just a wonderful community. Like if you're going to be, if you're going to start out as an admin type profession, even though scheduling dispatching is so much more than that. But, if you're going to start as an admin position, what better, like it's awesome to be an aviation admin, than, selling paper,
Yeah. Agreed. Yep, I totally agree. And oftentimes the aviation schedulers, dispatchers, they're out at the hangar. And this is something I always liked. I know, yes, like you said, we're put in that admin category quite often, but at least we're at the hangar and we're not over at the main office. We get to be at the airport and hear those airplanes going by and see the airplane, in and out of the hangar that you're working at. So you're right. That's just being in aviation is cool.
It's a great dynamic working environment. And then the people that you meet, the connections you can make. I mean, it's a wonderful community. It's the community of aviation is so much more of a benefit than people give it credit for. I think people just usually think of the jets, right? Or like the airport, the private airports, but the community itself, both in terms of from the customer service to the customers, the B2C, and the B2B, like the colleagues that you make, the company that you keep as aviation professionals, I found it to be, pretty solid. There are, it's an unregulated industry, and maybe you can speak to that a little bit. On the scheduler side, there's some people that take advantage of the unregulated nature of it.
Yeah.
For the most part, if you can find the company that you want to keep, and you can make a career out of just keeping that company and just ignore the rest.
Yep. No, it's very true. There are, Part 91 doesn't have a lot of regulations. So we do work with a lot of things that could be, I don't know, I guess it's just not, there aren't regulations for it. So you don't have to follow them. I do have to say most of our clients though are really good at following either 121 or 135 guidelines. While we don't have to, but we usually do. And those are the clients I want to work with anyway. I'm not really interested in working with the ones who are really pushing the edge, and not doing things that are really safe. So when you were doing the sales, did you go to industry events like MBAA? Were those big places that you would go to for networking or even clients?
Well, it's kind of interesting, working at an agency, that wasn't really part of the culture of the agency. I mean, It wasn't prohibited, but it just wasn't. The line was, while everybody's out at MBAA, that's our opportunity to call on people and, get more business done than the competition, if you will. And, it made sense to me not having the experience. I was like, okay, whatever. And I just, put my head down and made my phone calls. But having since left that agency and now that I'm on my own, it's been a tremendous advantage working with organizations like NBAA, working with local groups, connecting on LinkedIn digitally with individuals. And I think it was very short-sighted of me to just ignore that part.
Yeah.
Because I think for long-term success, you're better off networking.
Yeah, the networking is huge. And now Florida, if I'm not mistaken, Florida has one of the largest private jet ownership bases. There's a ton of even single aircraft owner operations there. So I've heard of a couple of different events in Florida. You've got Sun and Fun. I believe the Central Florida Business Aviation Association has a big piece. There's probably a bunch of them, but great. Sounds like a great place to network. Just lots of opportunities.
Yeah, the challenge is leaving the family, for those events, because with 5 kids, it's 5 sports schedules that would just shut down if either my wife or myself wasn't around.
Right. Very true. Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit. Does being a jet broker, or even maybe more of what you do now, which is a lot of the online content, does that allow you to be home with your family more? Was that part of that goal?
Yeah. Part of going out on my own was to be in control of my own schedule. I like waking up early. I like getting work done during the daytime and being pretty much done by the time my kids are done with school. That opens me up to run them around, spend quality time with them. If I want to volunteer at their school, that's important to me. If I want to, leave work early to go do something with them. Like, for example, we pretty much watched the entire Men's World Cup in October, November. I did go home to watch the World Cup with them. And so like that kind of stuff is important to me. And so, that was one of the reasons why we decided to start my own brokerage, because I think as a broker, so much of what you do can be done remotely.
Mm-hmm.
You can make your own schedule such that, It's respecting your own schedule and your family's schedule as well as the client's schedule. And that's just the balance that worked out for me. I understand some people, do prefer the 9 to 5, and you can do that too. But in general, it is one of the nice things about sales is that, most of the time your clients, like these jet owners, they're working their own business from 9 to 5. So it doesn't make sense in some ways to try to call them during the day because you're probably interrupting their work day. So there are advantages to being available before and after hours that the profession affords you.
That's really cool. We talk about this actually for women a lot of times because we see that women are oftentimes caregivers, but it's very silly of us to exclude the men and the fathers of this in families as well, because you guys really want to be there for your kids just as much as moms do.
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool point. I mean, we've done podcasts, in fact, on work-life balance and how do you be a mom and do all these things as well. And that schedule, being able to set that schedule and work around theirs is always it's a really important piece. And I'm a big proponent of the remote work and making your own schedule. But I have to say, we've been very remiss in not including the men and the dads as well, because it's the same for you guys. That's really cool perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
So you were working for the other brokerage, and then where did you go to?
Well, by that point, it was just time for me to kind of start out on my own, and so just kind of open up shop. Prior to that, I had always valued the notion of a brand, and so while I was working with the agency, I had started the Jet Life brands, Jet Life with Tom, because I was getting frequently asked questions from people, and this is how I buy something. I go look online for the authorities in the space and learn, educate myself. And so I saw there wasn't that content. Like I said, when I was first training, there wasn't the content for wannabe jet brokers. And then for wannabe buyers, there wasn't any information out there either. You'd have to go online. You'd have to know about Controller or Trade a Plane. You'd have to know about those sites. And then you'd have to call a broker who may or may not answer their call, who may not return the call. And it was probably just going to give you the information that you asked for. How much is it? Tell me about it. And then they'd say, okay, I'll send specs, see you later. And I didn't want to be that kind of broker. I wanted to do something more because that's the person I would buy from. I always thought of this like sell, how do you want to be sold to? And so I want to be sold to somebody who puts content out there, helps educate me. And then when the time is right, I'll reach out to them and pay them for their services. It's kind of funny. I was talking to somebody today and they had found me online. They were looking up how to buy a private jet. They found me, as the Ultimate Jet Guide on YouTube. And I said to them, did you download the Ultimate Jet Guide, the PDF? And she said, no. And the reason for that was because it made it sound like, I would basically, tell her how to buy a jet on her own. And she says, I don't want to learn how to buy a jet on my own. I want you to do it for me, and I will happily pay you for that. And I was like, great, not a problem.
Right, I can do that too.
So that was kind of my philosophy. So I was building that brand. And so I had a little bit of, an investment into that. And so when I left on my own, I kind of just piggyback off of that. And, of course, would like to rely on past relationships that I had. So once I would clear the agreement between the former agency and myself, a timeline, then of course reach out to past clients. But we kind of were starting from scratch, basically, and so we had to get up and running as quickly as possible. But it was good. I was fortunate that I had started a brand. Definitely something I would recommend for anyone who's in any business, even in aviation. Schedulers and dispatchers. I think that'd be kind of cool to have some content helping owners, helping people. Like, how can you leverage your skills to help somebody else in aviation that could springboard your brand or springboard your next step in the aviation profession by creating valuable content for people?
That's very cool. And I think that is I want to say kind of a newer thing, like creating your brand. You're younger. Some of our younger people coming into this industry, I think, would really identify that with that. And it would be really cool to see some change in the way things are going right now. I mean, we have a lot of kind of old school ways of learning about things. A lot of it's on the job. So creating a brand, that's a great suggestion. Now, creating a brand, do you have any maybe some advice on how to get that started? I feel like if I was trying to create a brand for myself, I might not know exactly where to start.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of different places you start. I mean, obviously, you just kind of Google branding. I mean, so many people pop up, Gary Vee and Grant Cardone again. But the whole idea of a brand, is just, what do you stand for?
Okay.
And sometimes you don't know what you stand for. So it didn't start out for me as creating a brand. It started for me by answering frequently asked questions. So I mean, maybe schedulers and dispatchers are hearing a lot of the same questions from owners trying to book a trip. That I would just start making content based around that. And then this idea, for me, I like the idea of frequency before greatness. So I want to create as much content as possible. And through that, I will get better and better and better. So I don't get paralyzed by perfection. I'm a ready, fire, aim guy, and so a lot of people would want to be perfect. They want to have it all together before they put themselves on camera. I just, for whatever reason, that filter just isn't built into me. So I just start creating content. Now, maybe it's not creating content via video and audio. Maybe you're a writer. Maybe as a scheduler and dispatcher, you prefer to just write. So great, just put out, tweets or threads or, reels, that are more text-based. You can do that. And then through that, you'll find your voice. And then, so what I found was I just enjoyed talking to owner operators. So I found that they were owner operators. And then I found I enjoyed talking to first-time buyers because I enjoyed educating them through the process of buying a jet. So that's where the whole brand of the Ultimate Jet Guide, pulling back the curtain on private aviation, that's where it all came from, by me just talking it into existence, if you will.
FAQs. That sounds great. So let's talk about exactly what is the Ultimate Jet Guide. And if we go to your website, what do we get to find? Because I've seen it. It's pretty great. So what would you tell our listeners?
There's a couple of things you can check out. I mean, you can go to jetlifearrow.com. That's the brokerage. And there you'll also find, how to become a broker. One of the things that we are are passionate about is inspiring the next generation of jet brokers. So you'll find that at jetlifearrow.com. And then if you check out the Ultimate Jet Guide, that's kind of the buyer facing aspect of the business. So if you're looking to acquire a jet, buy a jet, we hope that you'll find the Ultimate Jet Guide. That is a downloadable PDF, about 20 pages of how to buy a private jet, everything from buying a jet for charter. So how to charter a jet, how to buy a jet itself, fully, own it yourself, and even how to invest in a jet, which is becoming more and more popular, where individuals will have a need for private aviation, but it's only maybe less than 5 or 10 hours a month,
Okay.
So they'll take the asset and they'll hand it over to an operator to use so that they can offset their fixed costs, offset, some of their variable costs, and, in gray market, like we've had the last 2 years, generate some positive revenue. Whether or not that those trends will hold, we don't know, but that's what the Ultimate Jet Guide is, ultimately. And then that's the PDF. And then the YouTube channel is just creating more and more content on a regular basis to help aid buyers who just don't know where to get started. And, we've recently partnered with Av Buyer Magazine. Okay. So they'll be leveraging some of our content on their platform.
Nice.
So that's been a great partnership that's in the works. And, we also work with GLADA, the Global Licensed Aircraft Dealer Association, where we kind of get guests from that network. So it's very helpful because we can bring on, like you were saying, industry experts to educate the buyers into this fun new world of aviation.
And for those listening, you got to check out his website because he's got stuff like you have an insurance agent or insurance broker on there talking about all about that. You talk about the process of I guess, selecting the aircraft. I mean, you have a lot of really educational videos on there.
We try to keep it. We try to use infotainment, or edutainment or whatever it is. It's like that portmanteau of education and informative, because we understand aviation insurance is probably not the most sexy topic that people are Googling into YouTube. So we try to have fun with it. It's not just talking heads. We're throwing in stories. We're throwing in B-roll. We're throwing in graphics, and some memes and stuff to keep the viewer's attention, because it is an important part of owning an aircraft, having insurance, and just need you to stick around for 5-10 minutes so you at least get the basic concepts so you can be a responsible owner.
Well, they're definitely entertaining and informational as well. So what's your future hold? Like where are you headed? What do you want your business to grow into going forward?
My actual main goal is helping to inspire that next generation of aviation professionals. I want to raise the bar of aviation professionalism, both in terms of, character, right? We want to make sure that this industry stays above board, if you will. If no one's going to regulate us, then we got to regulate ourselves. And character is really important to me. And I think we as aviation professionals shouldn't be afraid to speak about our character, our values that we hold dear. Because if we don't talk about it, then it's just kind of a nebulous concept. And so training brokers, to have character, to have values, to be professionals is important to me. I also I don't want to be the world's greatest jet salesman, but I would love to coach and mentor some of the top jet brokers in the world, and so I found more passion and more fulfillment in educating, in work people who want to come into the industry, who want to try sales or just learn more about what jet brokers do. And so my long-term goal is to continue to sell jets, to continue to work with my clients, to continue to provide solutions for them and build new relationships and acquire and sell private aircraft for people, directly, but also at the same time grow a brokerage. Or part of our model is, you want to start your own brokerage, that's great. Partner with us, Jetlife Pro, go build Lindsay's Aviation and sell your own jets. And then we're just like a little thumbnail or like a little footnote, we're a partner of Jetlife Air, so that you can leverage our marketing budget. You can leverage our contacts and our experience. You can leverage our training and promote your own. So that's the bigger picture.
What a great concept, because I think sometimes for schedulers and dispatchers, doing domestic trips are relatively easy. Going into the international can be really scary. And I think that's a parallel, because LDA will hold your hands, so to speak, to go into that next section. So you guys are basically kind of holding people's hands to start their own company. And what a cool concept. And I bet that's really fun to see when it's completed. Like you see somebody off on their own, you've helped them, and they're doing well.
That's the goal. Yeah, that's the ultimate dream right now, for sure.
That is so cool. Let's switch topics a little bit, and then let's talk more about your passion about getting more people into the industry, specifically young people. What's some maybe advice for somebody who likes aviation? They don't know where to start.
Reach out to people, reach out to people that you see creating content. I mean, like yourself, Lindsay, like myself, like we're putting ourselves out there for a reason. And it's really, we would love to be contacted to help you in your journey. So I had one girl from out west contact me just to find out more. I spent an hour on the phone with her. She was great, really nice girl. And we got her connected with Jet Aviva for an internship over the summer.
Great.
Done. Like, do you want? Okay, done. Like it's really that simple if you reach out and take the initiative. So that's cool. And subscribe and just be a part of the conversation. I've actually found, and I've been in youth ministry, I've been in music, I've been in direct marketing, LinkedIn. The aviation community is very active.
Yeah.
On LinkedIn. And I never really used LinkedIn that much until I got into aviation. So become a part of the conversation on LinkedIn it would be helpful for sure.
Yeah, I agree. LinkedIn is a very big spot for us as well. Can meet a lot of people. And then those events too. I'm always, like you were talking about before, I'm always a big proponent of going to those events. And then I'll reiterate what you said, reach out to people. Like you said, I mean, you've been around for a long time and I've been around for a while and I still love talking to people. Like I would never not respond to somebody. And I think it's because it's fun, right? So yeah, if you're listening, don't hesitate to reach out.
And people will say like, it's all about who knows, who you know. Mm-hmm. And like to flip that, like, it's not about who you know, it's who knows you. Money, job, opportunity follows attention. Attention is the new commodity right now. So what are you doing to get someone else's attention? And it goes back to, like you said, are you showing up at the events? Are you creating content? Are you being part of the conversation? This year for MBAA, I had a goal to be, one of the top 40 at 40. And, I had a couple of people nominate me, I know, and I have not gotten a call. So that tells me that I didn't make it this year. And so I can lick my wound and just be like, oh, well, I'll never again. I'll never try again or whatever. Or I can say, okay, well, what did I do to put myself in front of the people who make the decision? Mm-hmm. I really didn't do much. Like to put myself in front of, like, I didn't go to as many events as I could have, even if they were online. Like, okay, it's one thing going to an event like in Las Vegas, I can't always make those, but
sure.
What did I make myself present to the MBAA people for digital events? Was I part of the conversation when they were, posting stuff online? And the answer is no. So why would they choose me? They don't know me. If they don't know me, they can't make any recommendations whether I'm a good fit or a bad fit. So
sure.
If you're new into the industry, you want to take responsibility to get known,
mm-hmm.
and it's, just make a positive impression, and it'll flow from there.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I think there's a parallel to some of my previous guests that we've had. Sometimes we say that schedulers and dispatchers are perhaps passed by for positions in the leadership role. But one of the things along the way, like you just said, is you have to make yourself known. Like, did you tell your supervisor, manager, etc., that you want those roles? So you have to put your face in front of them and say, I want this, and this is what I'm doing to get there. So I think, yeah, that's a really good point. Make yourself known. And I wanted to just touch real quick on a point that you mentioned earlier today about the morals and the way you're conducting business. I think aviation can sometimes there are some people in aviation that maybe aren't so honest, perhaps the wrong aircraft to a client, maybe suggesting some type of a giant airplane when they really just want to go domestically. But it's worth a lot of money, so you want to sell it to them anyway. But I think that's a really good point, because this industry is small. It's not small, but it is small. And if you come into the industry and you have perhaps not the best business morals, people are going to remember that. So if you're coming into the industry, make sure you're doing good business, being a good citizen.
Yeah. Yeah. And take a moment, if you're a scheduled dispatcher wanting to grow to the next level, or you're wanting to get into aviation, take a moment and think about 3, 4, 5, 6 of your own core values. Mm-hmm. What's important to you, because that's going to inform the things that you do. It's going to inform how you conduct yourself. And sometimes we're just going around conducting ourselves based off we don't know what. And then we're shortchanging ourselves. Like our core values are, I know we're there. I mean, they're behind me in my office. Mm-hmm. And so when I'm talking to someone, like I have in the back of my head, like, well, transparency, honesty, I mean, those are our values. So when I get bad news, like I want to be honest, I want to be transparent about it. Resiliency, education, humility. And they're in the back of my mind. So that as I'm conducting business, I'm thinking about it. Is this reflective of, what our core values are?
Yeah, such a good point. And that is necessary and good, whether you want to start your own business or you want to stay in the company that you're at right now. Those core values are important either way.
And it's easy to do. Just think about them and then just keep them with you, and that becomes part of who you are, part of your character. And that's what people will notice, how you conduct yourself, not just the things you say, but how you actually do business.
Yeah, that really resonates with me. So if you're listening, make sure you get out, that's your homework, is to find all your core values. Well, Tom, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really great talking to you. What an inspiration. And I love what you're doing on the website. I don't think there's anybody else out there. And I really like it, partly because I think you're bringing aviation into the next stage, the digital stage, the younger, I want to say younger stage, but we got to get into this more. And I love it. So thank you so much for your time. Hey, if somebody wanted to talk to you, where would they find you?
You can go to YouTube, The Ultimate Jet Guide. That has all the contact information, ultimatejetguide.com as well. Or if you want to find me on Instagram, that's probably the most direct, or LinkedIn. My name's Tom Lelyo. That's Lima Echo Lima Yankee Oscar for those schedulers and dispatchers that know the phonetic alphabet. If you don't know, you have to figure it out.
That's right. That's right. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Tom, again, and hope to see you back here again soon.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for more episodes and check out our website for up-and-coming podcasts. This has been a production of the Business Aviation Collective, sponsored by LD Aviation.